there are some things that I actually want to go ahead and test. Yesterday, there were some enchants that I wanted to go ahead and showcase and basically show. Now, I did change some things around. The only thing that I really did was replace 2 books. I am going to be using the angelic and another demonic book. Now, this is going to be rather interesting because I know there's a lot of players out there right now that are struggling with the current raid, whether it be with breaking these ginormous chests in solo or in a group. Now, I do have to give you guys a bit of a forewarning. A lot of these books, especially the corruption itself, is extremely expensive. We're talking about a book that is climbing up to be 1 billion gems. See how quickly that actually broke? That actually broke instantly. I am having absolutely no issue doing this by myself. However, I'm assuming once you join in with other friends for these chests are going to be dramatically increased, and it's probably going to be around 4 trillion HP for each one. But the problem is it's not so much the HP, but how many are in certain rooms, and we're talking about the very last room, and that's the biggest issue that a lot of players out there are currently having. But however, I want to go ahead and showcase these books because it's really important to actually just go ahead and show these. So based on how much health that they actually have, I want to see what activates. The most important thing is what activates as a book. Now, obviously corruption does activate randomly. It's a chance that it's going to go ahead and activate, but the demonic book or the angelic book, now this is a really interesting book, and I didn't really get to talk about it in my last video all that much, mainly because I didn't do that many tests on it. So what we're looking at right now is the demonic book activating, and it activates really well on here. It doesn't take like 5 minutes for it to activate, and it doesn't feel like it takes forever, which is really important. You don't want a book that feels like it takes forever to activate. Now the 2 books that I am using that are just regular enchants are your tap power X and the criticals X, which is really good too. The only thing is make sure that you actually empower them, otherwise you're not going to get the full potential of these books. Now what I am going to go ahead and do is activate both of the boosts, which will obviously give me a damage boost and experience boost, which I really need, and we're going to continue to go through these rooms. Now another key note that I also noticed is you have to make sure that you're using good pets. Rather, if you're not using Titanics or anything like that, it doesn't really matter, right? If you have a huge that's either golden, shiny, or rainbow shiny, those do help dramatically, like dramatically. Here we go with another room which has 3 chests that are humongous, and you see that the angelic and the demonic book both activated once one or the other are finished. Now that the angelic finished, it reactivated again, which is awesome, and then we're going to go ahead and wait for another enchant to go ahead and activate, whether it be the corruption, demonic, or angelic. Alright, 5 seconds have passed and the demonic book did activate, but it looks like it only bopped once, and that's okay. Alright, that chest broke. Now we're on the last one, and I would say like 4 or 5 seconds later it reactivated, and it did it a few times, which is okay. And it looks like it's completely broken now, so it didn't take that long for it to actually break, and that's kind of what I'm looking for, is a long-term enchantment setup. And I think that's the most important thing for this, is what is a good long-term enchantment loadout. So I have finally reached a room where it's kind of imperative that you guys need to actually really probably really focus on some big things here. So obviously we have all the boosts activated as much as possible. Now this is going to be a lot, so there's a lot of these chests here. This room is so filled up that it's going to be a little hard for me to actually navigate myself in here, so I'm gonna have to figure this out. Obviously this is really important because this is what a lot of players are running into. Chests that are just cramped up, no idea what is happening, right? So we're gonna go ahead and chill here, and I'm gonna see how long it's gonna actually take for me to actually record all of this, and I'll speed this up so you guys can watch it, and then I'll show the thing at the very end. So I'm looking at the footage right now, and in reality, it took me 1 minute and 30 seconds without speeding it up to basically clear out the entirety of that room. All right, this one's a little bit more forgiving because there's only 3 in here versus the other one that had like 1 million of them. And I really think it was super awesome that it only took me about a minute or so to actually complete out the entirety of that room, which was really cool because I didn't feel like sitting in there for that long. And I think it's really important that that I explain this because I'm running out of things to talk about. I mean, look at that little baby shrimp down there working. Dude, Bobby is working so hard. He's so good. He's a good little shrimp. Okay, so we're about to break the next one. This is the last one, and then we're able to go into the next room, and then I can actually hit time on this and see how long it took without me running out of breath and almost fainting because I'm running out of breath. And time. Jesus Christ. My God. Okay, well, I hit the room finally. I gotta count this. 1, 2, 3. Wait, how many? Okay, so that was 1. Okay, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Either 7 or 8 are inside of this, and it's really hard to indicate how many are in here. But still, I am still breaking them all, and it's going by very easily. Now, again, I feel like this is completely dependent on what you guys are upgrading, what you guys are using as pets, and especially the enchants. Now, all of these really do really matter at the very end of the day. So I'm gonna, again, talk as much as I can so you guys can visually see everything in real time rather than it being sped up. So we have boosts going on, we have eatables or edibles, whatever you guys eatables, edibles, and we're using absolutely everything as much as possible so we can visually see absolutely everything, okay? Now, this is the very last chest. Look how fast that was easy to clear out. Completely easy. Okay, so I had Mage basically test this loadout. He said it's actually very similar to the one that he's actually using, and he ended up clearing this entire room within 40 seconds. Now, remember, this is totally crazy. This is dependent on what you're using for upgrades, what enchants you're using, what pets could you quite possibly be using. What I am going to go ahead and do next is go and change my pets out. I'm going to go ahead and use regular baby pets. We're going to rip away what I am using and see if this is still something that's utilizable for everybody. So we are officially back inside of the room, and I am going to be strictly using the event pets only. We're going to see how long it ends up taking me to actually clear this out, and this is what's going to actually happen. So now that we're finally in here, I'm going to go ahead and leave these pets be. Remember, there's so many boxes in here, so hopefully I'm able to break one, and we're going to go ahead and see how long it's going to take them to actually break just one singular box. So it took them 4 minutes to just break one. And for me, that's a little too long for my liking. So I'm going to go ahead and actually re-equip my other team just so I can blast through these. I walked away and then came back and 10 minutes passed by. And yeah, that's a little too long. So we're going to skip this now. What happens if we go in here with strictly exclusive pets? Now, let's go ahead and find that out because I'm kind of interested in knowing. Granted, we're not using the very best pets, but I want to see how long it takes them also to break the chest itself because, again, remember, they're going to be scaling off of this one singular stat pet. Alright, so you guys can see what they're doing. Obviously, we have Tsunami in here, so that's also giving them a bit of a boost because it does damage to it as well, so I guess we'll just kind of watch it live. Now, it's not horrible. This is a lot better than the stat pets, I'll be honest with you. Granted, this can be absolutely better, so yes, this totally depends on your pets. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. Okay, well, surprisingly enough, this team actually didn't do that bad. Compared to the other one, which took 4 minutes, this one took 37 seconds. So Elk eventually made his very own raid. Now, he is around, at the time when we did the recording, 3,958. So we're scaling off of his raid specifically, and to be quite honest, this is probably triple the amount of what the chest health is. But guess what? We're still able to pass through this no matter what, even with the enchants. Obviously, having Elk here is a bonus. It's basically having double power against something like this. So I think for this one, Elk might have been glitched out because I was in his raid, but he wasn't inside with me. Now this one singular chest took a little bit under 30 seconds to actually break. Now this is just by myself. This is scaling off of what Elk has, and I believe he's already level 4000. For myself, truly to get the maximum amount of damage for this, I think I'm gonna have to actually maximize my raid damage. Then obviously the raid pets, because the more that you have, the better it is. Of course, there's speedy pets and the attack speed, which are two other ones that are rather important, but not as important as the damage. I guess it's kind of hard to say. To get more of these orbs, you kind of need to sacrifice points in order to actually get this. So yes, inevitably you're going to need to actually do the EXP, because obviously getting levels once you reach a certain amount, I'm already at 2000 and it's rather slow. And this is kind of where everybody needs to balance between those two. So I can actually go ahead and do the EXP now because I can go ahead and get a bunch of these and I can get 120% more. Is it still going to take me forever? Absolutely. But is it going to be a little bit more easier? A tiny bit. And if anybody is actually curious as to why we have another setup for absolutely everybody, Joey had a patch finally released, I believe, yesterday, absolutely changing everything everybody was doing and using at the time. So the patch includes increased damage upgrade instead of what it was previously. It is now plus 950% at max level. And I think the most important one is the chests. Final chest shows up more often. We're looking at something that was added and it is aggressively inside. So obviously once you start hitting a good amount of levels, you're going to see these chests more often and they're going to have more health. So yes, important things to note: your pets, as shown in the video, what enchants you're using, and definitely the boosts. Hopefully this gives you guys a better insight on what you can use and what the potential books that you could quite possibly use, and especially your pets. Does this mean you need to go get rainbow shiny pets? Not everybody's going to be able to afford that much, especially the huges, and especially, obviously impossible to get are the Titanics. I would say the most cheapest ones that are rainbow shiny, honestly, at this point are your event pets, such as the G event, which was last year, and some of your active huges. You might be able to get some of them, but even then, honestly, if you're able to run shiny huges, that's even better. And if you can't afford those, rainbows. At the very end of the day, you want to go ahead and minimize the amount of time it takes to break these. And to be quite honest, you don't need to do anything extravagant. What is happening? Just like that, Elk is running around me, and this is just to reduce how long it actually takes you to do the raid, so you can actually zoom through these a lot more quicker. And to be quite honest, I think this might be the last patch that they do for the update until Saturday, where we get a second part, what they add in additionally. And until then, that's honestly really it for this, and I will see you guys in the next video. I can't, dude. What is he doing? Where am I at?
Okay, bye.